Davis 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good!
Crosby in on goal, backhander, he scores!
And good! 49ers win it!
Loki Legion. Today I want to go over the NBA trade deadline winners, losers, and the kind of not so sures right now. So let's get straight into this today. I would say the Sixers are winners because they got Jalen McDaniels from the Hornets. He's an upgrade over Matisse Thybulle, and he got a couple picks, I believe, as well. Just because Matisse Thybulle, we've known that he doesn't really do anything on the offensive side of the ball, unfortunately, even though he's a great defender. So even though Jalen McDaniels is not as good of a defender, he can do a little bit more offensively. So I'd say they won. I would say the Wizards are losers. The only real move they made recently would just be the Hachimura trade, and I felt they didn't really get the value they could have from the Lakers. So I almost have to say they're losers. I'm gonna put the Hawks in not available because, as we all know, the trade with Gary Payton II, that 14 trade, it's in limbo right now. So I can't really put them anywhere else, unfortunately, until we know the trade's gonna go through or not. Cavs, same thing, not available just because they didn't make any moves, but they're a really solid team, so they probably want to see where the roster stands, how good it can be once they get playing time together, because this is still D Mitch's first season there. So if they decide to make another move in the offseason, that would make sense than trying to make a move right now when things are still meshing together for them. Pistons, same thing with the Hawks. We just don't really know because that trade's still in limbo. I'm gonna put the Warriors just there right now so I can get that out of the way. These teams, let's just say if that trade does go through, Warriors, I would say they won just because getting back Gary Payton II was a big part of their championship run last year. Good pickup. That's a really great defender for them, especially off the bench as well. Pistons, they get James Wiseman, who's still very young, very talented, and if he can develop, they would really be winners from that. Hawks, they get Sadiq Bey, who's a wing who can help them out. So there's a lot more winners than losers in my opinion this year, but right now, I still just really cannot rank them. Pacers, we got a couple picks on a young guard, I believe, so I'm just going to say they're winners. Bucks, they got Jay Crowder, who, as we all know, is a very great player. As soon as he gets to a new team, he always shows out. When he's on his game, great 3-and-D wing. He's basically the new PJ Tucker, who was a big part of the championship run a couple years ago, so I'm going to say they're winners. Raptors, I have no idea how to rank them, just because I think the majority of the people were under the assumption that they were more sellers this trade deadline, but as we all know, that did not really end up happening. They ended up getting Jakob Poeltl from the San Antonio Spurs, and Jakob Poeltl is a good center, but this roster is it's hard to describe because on paper it should be a lot better than how they are actually playing, but they're slumping. There's a lot of stuff kind of going on, so there's a reason why they're at the bottom of the kind of playing race. So if they get into the playoffs, maybe win a series or so, with Jakob Poeltl being a main difference in those series, I can say they're winners. But right now, if they don't make the play-in, they'd have to be losers just because we really don't. They're at such a weird kind of place in their franchise right now. It's just hard to rank them. I can't really put them anywhere. Mavericks winners. Kyrie, they obviously lost depth with Finney Smith and Spencer Dinwiddie, but they got Kyrie Irving, who's the first legit star Luka has had to play with, so I'm gonna say they're winners. Getting a star in this league is so important, and I cannot stress that enough. So I'm gonna say they're winners. Nuggets, they traded away Bones Highland, but they got back Thomas Bryant, who's a really good center, especially for a backup role. That's what I was kind of referring to when he's really good. He can start, but as a backup role to Jokic, that's a really good pickup. And then they're able to get a couple picks as well. I'm pretty sure they'd flip those picks for some maybe something in the offseason, depending on how things go, but getting Thomas Bryant to back up those Jokic list minutes really important. So I'm gonna have to I'll put them as winners, even if they lost Bones Highland. Bones Highland was really getting that much minutes anyway, so I'm gonna say they're winners. Grizzlies, they got Luke Kennard. I know their only real move. They got rid of Danny Green. I'm gonna say they're losers just because the West got entirely better, and we all know that. I'll talk more about some of the other teams that got massively better. The fact they didn't really do too much puts them the losers for me. And the reason why I put them as losers is just because they've been they're still decent in the West. We've known that they've been struggling against the Western Conference recently, and if that continues, especially in the playoffs, who knows how that's going to go. So that's why I can put them in losers, and why I'm a little bit more confident. Even the Cavs didn't make any moves at all, I could put them on the kind of like the mid tier. Wolves, it's the same thing. It's very similar just because they traded away D'Lo for Mike Conley, and the thing with Mike Conley is a very serviceable player. But the thing is, he doesn't. I'd say he raises the floor of that team, but doesn't really do anything to raise the ceiling. But they needed someone who can just organize the offense without taking too much shots away from Ant-Man and Cat. Also, so that's why they'd have to move away D'Lo, especially with that 3-team trade. But because Mike Conley doesn't really upgrade them, but he's not at all downgrade, I just put them in the not available. We have to see how that goes later on. Spurs, they took a couple players for salary dumps. They got a couple picks. They're still rebuilding. Those second round picks will probably come in handy if you want to trade up for any future endeavor. I'd say they're winners. Jazz, I would say they're losers just because for the Lakers trade where they traded away Jared Vanderbilt, they also traded away Malik Beasley on top of the fact they took Russ for only 1 pick. I think for me, especially for Danny Ainge, you would have thought that you would have gotten like both the Lakers first picks instead of just one. And because of that, the value really wasn't there for the Jazz. They also took like JTA and they took Damian Jones, but I'd say from that 3-team trade, the Lakers are the clear winners. The Jazz didn't really do anything else. They obviously got 1 pick, which is nice, but still they could have gotten more. So I'm not put them at the losers. Clippers, not available, and the reason why is because they obviously traded away John Wall. They traded away Reggie Jackson. So the obvious thing would be they're gonna go after Russ really hard in the buyout market. So once that happens, I think I can rank him as a winner. But if another team signs Russ or Russ doesn't get bought, if something weird happens, then they kind of trade away both their main point guards for kind of nothing. Really, especially they got back Mason Plumlee, but that's not really too much value for that. So I'd have to put them in the not available. If they get Russ, I'd say they're winners because they get an obvious upgrade at point guard. But right now we're still penning those moves, so I'd have to put them in the same tier like the Hawks, Pistons, Warriors. They're just kind of pending on moves. We don't really know yet. Suns, massive winners just because obviously their depth took a hit. They traded away Mikal Bridges and Cameron Payne, but they got Kevin freaking Durant, man. Kevin Durant's still a top whatever player in the NBA. He's still at least top 10, in my opinion. He's one of the all-time greats at this point. He can score anywhere on the court. He's gonna help Devin Booker, CP3. That's a really formidable starting lineup. Especially they also got TJ Warren as well. Even if they had to trade away some those picks and some of the players, getting Kevin Durant is someone who's obviously has come to other teams like Golden State and helps them kind of get over humps. So Kevin Durant, big deal for them, and that did be clear winners. Blazers, this is interesting. I'm gonna put them as winners. They're low-key winners just because they didn't do too much, but they got Matisse Thybulle, who's gonna help their defense a ton, and Gary Payne II was injured, and we kind of don't know what's going on there, but Matisse Thybulle is a really good defender, and the Blazers need as much help as they can get. I'd say they're just low-key winners, but they're still winners. Kings, same thing. They really only got Kessler Edwards, but that's a wing they didn't have before. They're still like same kind of thing. They're winners. Not too much as some of the other teams, but they're winners. Knicks, I'd put them in the kind of Clippers here. They traded away like 3 players, only got back Josh Hart. So I'm assuming they're obviously going to be in the buyout market looking for whoever comes free. And if that's the case, if they can get some players in the buyout market, no real names comes to the top of my head, but if they get a couple players in the buyout market, maybe I think they can win. They'd be winners, but we're just pending some moves on who they'll get. Pelicans, they got Josh Richardson from the Spurs, who's an upgrade, but I would put them kind of like around here, like low-key winners, just because that really doesn't do too much for their team, obviously, but it's better than nothing. And if they would have gotten like an OG player, like someone like a interior defensive player, isn't like a Jakob Poeltl, I think that could have been much higher, but still something is better than nothing in this case. Hornets, it's hard to rank the Hornets because they're obviously in the Wembanyama sweepstakes. Can't really say they're losers because they got picks back for everything they did. I would put them kind of in the bottom of winners. They got picks, and for a rebuilding team, it's really all they need. Rockets, they took a bunch of the Hawks salary of Justin Holiday and one other player who's escaping me right now, but Same thing. They got back a bunch of second round picks. But that's gonna help the rebuild. I would say they're pretty big losers just because this roster needed like a Russ, or they needed like a solid point guard. They needed some depth. They needed some pieces. Anything would have really helped them, and a bigger center as well that could have helped them, because Bam is more of a power forward than like a true center. So the fact they didn't do anything, the only thing they did was traded Dwayne Dedman for just for some salary cap release. So they really didn't do too much. They're losers. Same thing with the Bulls. This was a team that really, if they traded away some players, or they actually got some players back, this could have really shaped how they wanted to go about the season. But they decided to stay put, and they're at the bottom of the play-in. This team really needed a trade, and they didn't do anything with that. So that's why it's not like some of the other teams which are a little bit more solid and they didn't make too much moves. This team desperately needed to decide if, I understand they have their pick to the Magic, I believe, but still top 4 or 5 protected, and still if they would have gotten some players to hop out their lineup, that could have helped them their case a little bit, but they didn't do any of that, so they're losers. Nets losers as well, but they're losers only because when you lose 2 superstars in Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant, you're gonna have to, it's the ceiling of your team's not to go down dramatically. Even if you got a bunch of wings back, you still got a lot. Well, they have a lot of guys that can play, but they have no star on their team anymore, so they would be losers because of that. But we have to see what they do in the offseason. But even if they make the right moves, even if they got the picks and the players, they're losers just because giving up Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving. They're not so much Kyrie Irving because we all know the off the court issues, but Kevin Durant, you can't really replace the Kevin Durant. Thunder, I would say they're winners. They got back a couple picks as well, so I'm not sure if they got any notable players back in return, but they got a bunch of picks. So if they want to just leverage a bunch, like all their picks, they have like almost over 30 picks in the next couple years. So if they want to just get a superstar down the line, they have all the ammunition to do so. That's helping their case. Celtics, they got Mike Muscala, and that's a pretty big pickup because that's big man depth. He's like almost 50% 3-point shooter. He's almost knocked down, really. Great pickup for them. That helps their shooting, that helps their depth. They only gave up a second round pick, or a couple of second round picks, I believe. So that's really good value. Lakers, this is kind of hard to rank compared to Phoenix, but they're at least top 2-3 when it comes to who won the trade deadline. Getting they got Mo Bamba, they got D'Angelo Russell, they got Jared Vanderbilt, they got Malik Beasley. They traded away Pat Bev, Russell Westbrook, and they also traded Juan Scott Anderson, Damian Jones, and if you want to go back further, Kendrick Nunn, and they got back Rui Hachimura. These trades, they got way more wing depth, big man depth. This helps them a lot, and they traded away Russell Westbrook, who is obviously becoming much more of a negative to their team, especially even off the bench. This helps their team dramatically, and the fact they only gave up 1 first-round pick, I think they're pretty big winners in this. I'd say Magic are winners too, just because they got back a pick for a player that they're gonna buy out anyways, and then getting rid of Mo Bamba helps them a little bit, just because it was obvious that they're not gonna really give Mo Bamba minutes. They're gonna give some of their younger guns minutes, especially if later they get another player as well. It's just gonna be crowded. I don't think Mo Bamba would have really fit that. So trading him away and then getting a second round pick, basically, because they're gonna buy out Pat Bev, that's relatively good value for what they could have gotten. So all in all, when I was kind of looking at this, I was surprised. There's a lot of winners, a lot of teams that generally got better. Just because even if you didn't get players back, you got back probably a bunch of picks, and then right now there's so many teams that are just stacking up on those picks, like the Rockets, OKC, like those are like the Spurs. So then they'll have more than enough ammunition to rebuild, even if they'll suck right now. Then a bunch of teams, even if they don't have those picks anymore, they have a bunch more firepower to help them win now. So the main reasons why I put the losers in the losers is if the rest of their conference did moves and they really did not do any moves to help them, or they lost superstars really, or they didn't get enough value for who they gave up. So overall, not too much losers, but of course, the big elephant in the room would literally just be the fact we have a bunch of players that kind of we don't know what's happening with the 14 trade with the Hawks, Blazers, Pistons, Warriors, and we still don't know what's happening in the buyout market. Obviously, that hasn't happened yet. So I'll have to wait on to rank those teams not available yet, but obviously once that happens, we'll see if they won or lost the trade deadline. I thank you guys for watching this far. If you like what you saw, like and subscribe. If you think I ranked the team too high, too low, just let me know in the comments and then we can talk about it. I'll talk to you guys later.